Welcome, 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 welcome. Hello, how are you? And welcome to another episode of Be Clay. Listen, I told you that I am on the right path this time, that we are not going to have any long gaps in between episodes. So we are right on the money. Now, even with the fact that I'm still working on the logistics of the platform that I'm using, as I'm still trying to figure out which platform to use from now on, because I actually had to I'm actually re-recording as of right now, but all is well. All is well. All is well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for not leaving. With all that being said, so I want to today, for this episode, I want to basically give I want to say that maybe it's like an overview, but as we are now in May, we are basically halfway through May. And so that means we've been in this new year for 5.5 months. It's crazy, right? It seemed like just yesterday, it was New Year's Day. Now we are 5.5 months in. And in my episodes for last year and then 2025, I began speaking on and trying to catch you guys up as far as with the healing journey that I have been on. So we are going to dive into the healing journey. It has come to my realization about a month ago or so, where I really realized how much I have healed. I know there was bits of things that have happened, like I told you guys in the one with my birthday, how when something happened on my birthday, it realized how much I've healed, and I was just like, oh my God, like I'm free from other people's opinions. Like I was just so excited, so happy. But even the more after that, I have really realized how much I have healed. And I feel like I'm even dangerous now because I've healed. Like I've been saying, like I'm dangerous now because I have healed, and I healed so much that there's not that much that people in itself can do or say that's going to have me go into certain places. So, yeah, we want to talk about that today. Okay, so I'm bringing this up because let's start off the healing journey. I would say that my healing journey started in December 2022. And I say that because that was when I made in my mind that we got to get this done. No matter no matter what it takes, it has to get done. Up until then, when it comes to healing, see, I have never learned how to fully heal. Okay, I have never learned. There wasn't that many. I didn't learn that from my parents. To fully heal, to really allow God to. We're not talking about quick fix hits. Like let me get a quick hit and keep it moving. We're talking about literally staying there on that surgery table, allowing him to cut away. No matter how long the surgery, we know that depending on what the surgery is, or what has to happen, there's surgeries that can take 1 to 2 hours, and there's surgeries that could take, like hours. Okay, we watch Grey's Anatomy, we know, right? And so then, depending on the type of surgery, there are certain time frame of as far as recovery, right? There's some recovery where you can recover in a day or two. And there's recovery where it's going to take weeks or months. And up until then, your girl did not, she would rush. Whether she rushed the surgery, she would rush the process, or she would rush the recovery process. And she would bring up all these reasons why. And one of the main reasons is because I got to do. And I have to be the one to take care of others. All my life, I have been the one to take care of everybody, mainly because I felt as though that they can't handle it. They don't know what to do. I know what to do, so I'm going to do it myself. And that was never the right decision to do. I'm not God. The right thing was to say, oh, they don't know, but God, you help them to know and give it to God. No, I'm up here like, no, I got it. They don't know how to go to God. I can do it myself. And that was even at, as far as, so, because up until I am going to bring up different things that I have learned in the journeys of 23, 24, and 25. But after this episode, we're going to go through each year. Okay, I'm going to go through all the 2023, all the 2024, and all the 2025. 2022, I was struggling bad. I have been struggling for years up until 2022. In my mind, every insecurity, every anxiety, every fear, and I'm talking about things that has been with me throughout my whole life, was in my face every day, just tormenting me. And I was by myself because I didn't trust anybody. And not that everybody was out here really deeming themselves untrustworthy, but because I have been the one who, to some degree, more people can trust with their deep and hard things, the hard things. I always looked at myself as one who you can't handle what I got. Right? If you can't handle what you got, you definitely can't handle what I got. You know what I mean? Because what I have is I can't even always articulate the things that goes through my mind, the things that, because the things that I had was deep. Okay, it was deep. The things that I carried was deep. And so, you can't handle it. And throughout my childhood, especially, like I said, I grew up at a church, and, I've seen a lot, okay? Because we're going to leave it at that, right? I've seen a lot. And with me being able to see, and I mean really see the truth of things, people didn't understand me, right? They didn't understand what was coming out my mouth because, of whatever they are and the capacity they had to be able to understand. And so then as well, growing up, I didn't grow up in a household where we just went to church. It was just religion where we just went to church and that was it. Well, right. Like some people just go to church. They don't. But I also heard the word. Not only did I hear the word inside the church, but I heard the word inside of my home, even from the beginning. My mom had played that, and neither did my grandmother in the first years of my life. And so we understood about having a relationship with him, not just going to church. At least to that, we was introduced to that. And so with that being said, but there were some things that even though the word was there, it's just to feel like that there was some inconsistencies of what the word said and what was doing. Like, do we really trust God? Do we really know him? Because God is about healing, God is about, he wants us to heal. Like, how are we going to carry out his purpose if we don't heal? That doesn't make any sense, right? And there is time to heal. The Bible says that. And we don't even take that time to heal. So, there was a lot of things that, was inconsistent. And that's fine. We are going to be inconsistent with God. And that wasn't a problem. It's just when you continue on being inconsistent and expecting different results, then that's the issue. And that's what I have learned. When we're not taking the time to say, wait a minute, something is wrong. Maybe because I'm not aligned with God for real, as much as I think I am. And then I need to take a step back, chill out, stop, and realign myself with God and his word for real. So that I'm not just keep speaking his word and keep speaking things. So I'm just waiting on God. But am I really waiting on God? Or is he really waiting on me? Right? To really make sure, what does it really mean to really wait on God? All those different things. And so, like, it started off even as a child when I saw the different, I've seen the shifts in my household, the shifts at a very young age. And although my dad did not leave until I was physically left until I was 11, he basically left way before that. Okay. And I mean, way before that. And I've seen that. I want to, as Paul said this right here, I want to really, really say to you as parents to really, 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 really take heed, because your children hear and see way more than you think. And they don't really hear and see those things that you're actually saying. They hear those things, but that's not what really because there's things that you feel about yourself, insecurities that you haven't really dealt with or you haven't told nobody. And that's those things that your children are manifesting in, right? You be trying not to show it. You be trying not to let them, and then something happens and you realize, like, oh, so take heed, like really take heed. If you know God, then get in his face. God, I need you to fix this. I need you to heal, because I really don't want my children to walk and manifest in these things. And so, with all that being said, and I'll go into more than that when we get to 2025, but as much as I learned and understand as a child of some of the things that my mom and my dad said and out their mouth, but yet as a child and then as an adult, I realized that the things I manifest was the things they were not saying, right? The things that they did not say, those things that they were hidden, like those, those are the things that I was walking in. And those are the things that were really tormenting me, even that I was struggling, especially in my adult years of life. I seen it as my kid, but it didn't matter. It became more evident because now I'm a parent. And I just was like not prepared, right? And I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I realized I was walking in a lot of the things the different things that my mom, my father, and my other family, aunts and uncles and grandparents and those things that they did not heal from. And so, with that being said, as a child, I seen the shift of my dad, and I was like looking and crying, and oh, Dad, I need you to stay in the face of God, because I need you to protect us, because all these outside people are throwing seeds in here that the enemy is using them to throw stuff in, and then you open the door, but I need you to close the door to protect us. And and there was no way for me for him to understand that. And so the enemy came in and wreaked havoc, Okay. And when I seen the what was happening, and I began to, because again, I grew up in church. I didn't just grow up in church, but I grew up and I was going to church and hearing the word, and they would say things like, I told you music is how we talk. And so songs would be just have a little talk with Jesus, and, Jesus, call on him, tell him what you want. Right? That's what the Bible says. If you ask anything in my name, you have it. All these different things. That's what the word says. And a song is, he's my friend. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. He's my friend. All these songs. So I began to utilize them things, What's the point of taking me there if you don't want me to utilize it? So I've been calling on Jesus, and then my grandmother taught me how to do so as well. And taught me how to, be able to learn how to close some of these doors. And so, but I realized, what's the point of closing if he's going to keep opening them? So I said, well, I got to be the man of the house, obviously, because you don't know what to do. And so I took on this role that did not belong to me. And I walked in that role I never even told no one. I just told my mama and my dad, and others at 24. And I think I started, I think 24 was the year I started telling not just them, but everybody. But I walked in that. No, I'm the man of the house, right? And I walked in it. I walked in it. Like, who you are, like, I have to be the one to protect my mom and my sisters. I have to be the one to talk to, and I will, and I did. I did. I had to be the one. And my sisters would tell you, like, it was Elisa, to some degree, some games, like, once they realized the realization, like, because I was going to do it. And I even grown and married, I still was, I had two households that I had to figure out, mine and theirs. And, and so it was exhausting. And it was exhausting. So I never learned how to properly heal from any trauma that happened in my life. Different things have happened. All of those things, like, molestations and rape. And I never learned how to really heal from that. I just kept it moving, kept it pushing. You don't tell nobody, because that's what I also learned too. Things happen to you, to keep it to yourself. Because they know adults really want to know how to really effectively handle that, at least the ones in my life, because it happened to them, and no one, and their adults didn't know how to handle it correctly. And so, these are not, so I just, kept it moving, kept it pushing. But now it's getting to the point where I'm barely making it in my life, as a parent. And it's frustrating because, you want better for your kids, and it seems like I was doing worse for them, because how are you walking into the same things that you clearly saw what did not work with your parents and with your and their siblings and all of that? Like, how dare you do that? You know better, you have a relationship with God, and you're not in religion, they grew up in that. So, but you didn't. You grew up in really relationship. The support that you have is about relationship and kingdom minded. How dare you walk in this thing And so in the 2022, like, it got to the point where, I mean, I was just really just acting out on it, and then I just had a major breakdown. And I will get into all of that, but I had a major breakdown. And usually I have a breakdown inside my room and the kids don't know, but this time the kids knew. They seen it. I'm crawling on the floor. Like, it was bad. And I was scaring my babies. And then it didn't last for like a day. It was at least a week. I couldn't just get myself together, and it was scaring them. And I was crying, God, please, please, like, I'm so tired. Like, and then I felt like I would never get a breakthrough. These things will always haunt me. These things will, keep riding my back. Like, I would never be able to let this stuff go. I would never be able to move in the things of you. I would never be able to, fulfill my purpose, and my kids is going to be messed up. Like, I was just up there just crying and crying. Because and then so the Lord was like, I'm going to use this, for your breakthrough. And not just say, I don't know if I can even allow, it wasn't the fact that it wasn't that I didn't believe that he can do it. It's just that I didn't believe that I was ever going to allow him to do so. Like, I always get in my own way of allowing God to do what he needs to do in me. And so I was just, but it was my babies, okay? They were the main reason I said this got to go, right? My babies is what? Because I'm going to tell you, I got 6 kids, and I believe that God knew. No, I know, because he knows all. But he know that I needed 6 babies. Now, let me backtrack why that matters. So both of my grandmothers, my mother's mother and my dad's mother, had 8 children. For my dad's mother, because my mother, she died when I was 5. Okay. And, which even though she died when I was 5, didn't help, but it really, what's I'm looking for? It really, when I made that decision that I had to be the man of the house, part of that was because even though when I was as a young child, being able to see things, I had my grandmother that I could go to help me with the things that I've seen. And we would talk about it, we would pray, and that's it. She was the one that actually absolutely understood, right? But eventually, because she was getting sick, I couldn't go to her as much. And so I was dealing with these things, as far as I was concerned, by myself. Because who else can you go to? You have no one else. And so, but they don't know what to do, and they don't know what to say. And he not understanding that who the real enemy is, right? Like, people are not the enemy. And I'm gonna leave it at that part. And the real enemy you are allowed to infiltrate and win. And so, and then I had my grandmother was getting sick, and I knew that this time she's not going to get better. And she was sick before and got better and everything was fine. But I knew this time was not going to get better because the way that she was getting sick. And she was in the hospital longer, and they wouldn't allow me to see her. And so, and then I said, well, I guess I have to do it, and I have to be the man in the house because, I'm the only one. There's no one else. With that being said, so with my grandmother died, and I tried to do this without her, and then it wasn't working. So eventually, up until 15, was like, all right, God, I'm going to be distant. Now, with that being said, now my other grandmother, my dad's grandmother, she had 8 kids. And when I, in my adult years, be on the phone with my grandmother, she often talks about how many grandchildren she has, and this, time she had great grandkids, and the number is great. Like, I think she had like 30 grandchildren, and then like way more than that grandchildren. We're not about to start counting, but it was at least that or more. I don't know, we fertile over on this side. And but she say, I can't believe all this came from this little old body. That's what she would say. I can't believe that. And so, mind you, out of her 8, only 6 had children. And so, if only 6 of her 8 that had children, and you're talking about at least 30 grands, okay? That's generations. Do you understand? Like, that's generations. So I have 6. And so I have up to 6 generations. So he knew that that was going to be my motivation to get things right, because I have the opportunity to change generations from now on, right? I have the opportunity. And I remembering how, and one time I was in my living room, and I was just, like I said, these things was just overtaking me every day or every other day. And, and I was sitting there thinking, and I was just crying about all these insecurities. And these insecurities are not stuff that just came from like me. These insecurities that I had inherited, and I knew where it came from. Like I knew this came from my mama, this came from my grandmother, this came from this person, and I'm talking about way back. And so these are some things that I inherited, and I said, but this is all I know. And then I saw my daughter's face saying, but this is all I know. And I broke down and cried. Is that what I want my daughter to say? That's all she knows? No, I don't want her to say that. And so I had to get it together. I needed to do whatever needed to be done for him to really get this done. Like it had to be done, because I don't want my babies to say that this is all I know. I don't want the cycle to continue and they're manifesting and they're walking in these things. And so that was the motivation for my healing, because I have my babies, and those that were around me, if you're listening, y'all know, y'all can parents say, I got kids, I can't stay here. As I kept saying, I got kids, I ain't not staying here. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy, because again, I'm used to people doing the same thing, knowing it's not going to work, but doing it anyway and expecting different outcome. So when I said, listen, I can't stay here and I got to do it this way, and they was like, oh no, Elisa, like that's not the way you should do it. And I just had to cut them off this time. This time I wasn't listening to them. This time I wasn't hearing, and I knew that I had opposition, and I didn't even care. It is what it is. Now they look like, oh, wow, I see it. And now they're trying to do the same thing. But sometimes you just got to just throw away, like, just listen. Because at the end of the day, this is your life, At the end of the day, if you're a parent, those are your children. And that's your generation, right? So, for your children, like you got to do things differently. If especially when because I have talked to a lot of people who are, my age and, within that decade, and I'm not coming at my parents. They did what they thought they can do, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense for us to keep doing the same things that we know for sure that did not work. If it did not work for you guys, why am I going to do the same thing for my kids? That doesn't make any sense. That's just dumb, right? You got to do better. You know what I'm saying? You got to learn better, know better. If we have better resources, like I have a better resource than my mama had, and my dad had. And I'm talking about even within the church, and I said church system like it's an organization, but I'm talking about even I have a better support system that she had. So I should be doing better. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason why I should still sit up here like, oh my God. Like, no. I have a greater understanding. Like, because back in the day, like, they just like, just pray, baby, right? And they didn't even teach you how to pray, for real, for real. I mean, really pray. They just say pray, but they didn't even teach you how to pray. They would say things that they didn't even believe themselves, just trusting God. Do you know what trusting God means? Because trusting God means to obey him, right? And are you obey him? Like, you say you love him, but the Bible says to love me is to obey me. And if you're not even constantly paying attention to make sure that you're being obedient, then you really don't love him. Like, it's just really paying attention, like, of what the words say, he'll give you the desires of heart. Yeah, but if you delight yourself in him first. Like, those things, when growing up in church, I knew that because, again, I came home and I read the whole scriptures at home. But, but it wasn't always the right, they wasn't always saying that. And if they wasn't always saying that when I was in there, I definitely know they wasn't always saying it when beforehand. If my mother didn't have her own relationship, she wouldn't have known certain things, and that's the key though too. You got to have your own relationship with God. And I'm not saying don't go to church. I would not tell you to do that, because it's still a training ground. You don't know how to make it in the world because you're not even in church. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's your training ground. Now you just have to seek the Lord and ask him where to go. Simple as that. Come on, we can't. I know people like been hurt. I have been hurt. Trust me, I have. I have been hurt. And we could get into the level because I did have an episode on that. But again, all of these episodes that I have done were deleted. But that's the only one, and they're only on YouTube. But, I have been hurt. I have never left a church without God telling me to do so, though. Okay? I didn't leave because of hurt. Because it's people. All you do is going with people. I don't leave school. I ain't leave work because the people hurt me. You know what I mean? Like, I still got up and got it together with the work. When I was, working now and when I was at work. So how am I, I'm leaving church, I'm leaving God because they hurt me? Really? Or I'm leaving them because they're hypocrites? People are hypocrites. Okay? The government is hypocrites. We still here in the United States of America. We ain't go to Canada. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, we ain't move and go to Paris or wherever. We ain't move out of the country. We didn't, deny our citizenship. And we know the government is hypocrites. Like, so by all means, like, that wasn't me. I'm not coming at people like saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that your feelings and how you feel are valid. I get that. I'm just saying at the end of the day, let's also take the time. If you are the ones like, I'm not going to church. I can, have a relationship with God at home and things like that. I need you to also, I know that if you say that you can, I need you to also look at yourself. Am I? Like, there's people who only, let's say they go to church. That's the only time that they, open their Bibles. So if you don't go to church, are you opening your Bible? Right? So do you read your word? Do you study? Do you seek him? Do you seek wise counsel? Do you have someone? Because the Bible said, bear the infirmities of the weak. So when you're weak, who's bearing your infirmities? Right? Are you obtaining fellowship outside? Or where's your covering? Right? Do you seek covering? Because that's also, your pastors are your covering. The shepherds are your covering. So that's it. But I'm telling you, like, that's the beginning of my healing process. And I tell you, when I went in, I went all the way in. I'm trying to tell you, I went all the way. God, you need to do it. Now, each year, I just now see that as I'm looking over the years. And it's become more evident because of, people have been asking me. And that's now, I have lost some weight through this healing, right? And in 2023, in 2023 started the healing. And so in the 2022, there was December of 2022 when I had all this conversation that God needed to do and the breakdown. That was like the last half of December. And so, all right, God, we're going to a new year, January 1st. If I'm still here, we getting this in, right? I'm going to be free in 2023, right? That's what I kept saying. We're going to be free in 2023. And in 2023, I went through, my weight went up and down. In the beginning, my weight went down because I was fasting and everything else, because it's consecration every January, right? The month of consecration every January. And so I lost weight, and then I found it back. I think by the end of the year, I began to find it back. And so losing weight wasn't hard, should I say. It's that keeping it off. Now, I'm going to explain. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself to really go into 2023. So that's why I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I lost it and I found it back by the end of the year. Okay, so now we're in 2024. I'm like, all right, we on a different level of healing. Each year was on a different, greater level of healing. We have to know there's levels to this stuff, okay? And that's one thing I definitely had to learn in 2023. Like, there's levels to this stuff, Elisa. You up here thinking like you're supposed to be automatically done and healed in one day. This stuff ain't take one day to get here, so it's not going to take one day to go. Now, let's go back. With all that being said, and so 2024, I lost it. But because it was a different level of healing, it was different. I didn't find it back in 2024. In 2025, baby, okay? Like, all of was coming off. Again, it was a different level of healing. And so now we're here in 2026. Now, you know that I had my accident. And because I have my accident in December, my car was gone. So it was very hard for me to get into the gym like I was. It's now when I realized, like I said, not just this, but I couldn't get to the gym like I used to and do my routine and whatever. I love the sauna. Everyone knows that knows me. I love the sauna. Now I didn't stop eating carbs and stuff like that. I didn't do none of that. Like, I ate whatever I felt like it, when I felt like it, however I felt like it, whatever. But my favorite things are avocados and matchas and stuff like that. Those are my favorite things anyway. But I ate whatever I felt like eating and whatever, and stuff was still coming off. I still whatever, and the shape and stuff was there. But 2026, I barely was in the gym. Like, I'm just now because I have a car now. But before then, I, barely was getting in the gym. And yet I did not find my pounds back. Like, I was like amazed because I was up here like, oh my God, I was up here crying I think by February, when I realized that, like, Elisa, you're not getting into the gym like you're supposed to. Like, you're not going to the sauna. You're not, like, it's just not going to work. And I was up here crying like I'm about to find all of my pounds that I lost back, and I did not find them. I still was able to wear the clothing that I had went, because I had to buy new clothes because we have went down like two to three sizes. And so, baby, and yes, Lord. So with all that being said, but I still can fit it, and it wasn't like fitting where it was real tight or whatever case may be. They still was fitting correctly, but it just didn't. My shape was not there. And I've been asked, like, Elisa, are you still, like, you look like you going down? People keep asking me, and I was like, and they started asking me, what did you do? What are you doing? And then I realized, like, you know what? I healed. I've healed. This is when it really hit me. Like, that's because I can't say that I was that, because I still was, like, I wasn't finding my pounds back, and I still was able to, like, keep it off, and still some up. It wasn't as in the same manner as it was when I was going still in the gym and things like that. And I was like, what happened? And I realized it's because I've healed. Because I've healed, my relationship with the food is different. Now, food was my coping mechanism. Food was what this was my outlet. Now, I had other outlets, I bowl and, whatever, but I guess it wasn't doing it. Right? Food will be there, right? And even things that, there's times when I ate cookies or something that was nasty, but I ate the whole pack. Like, what that was, what's wrong with you? Eating past food on purpose, and the food I always great, but you're still eating past food. Different things that I was just doing as a coping mechanism. But now that I have healed, I have a different outlet. We go to the Father. You got to turn your face to the wall, right? Sometimes you just got to turn your face to the wall, okay? That's what we do, and we now have learned to, to feel my feelings, because I didn't learn to do that, and let's deal with this. Let's figure it out. And guess what? I'm not doing this by myself. So before, when I was doing this by myself and I would talk to nobody, but now I do. Okay, I do. We talk every week, and so, and that's another thing, and so I've healed, and because I've healed, then I'm able to not, find these pounds back. Okay, and so, and that's when I really realized how extensive my healing journey has been over these last couple of years. Compared to any short healing process that I have been throughout my years. When you go in, and don't get me wrong, it definitely wasn't easy. It was hard. We start dealing with those real demons and those, going back to the root of things. Some things is not easy to, get it to, it's just not easy. It did not feel great, but it was worth it. And so as we're, here, and I'm going to, because I have been asked multiple times, well, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? Like, how'd you heal? Like, I'm trying to get to that place. Many people have been asking me, and here I am telling you how you get to this place. Okay. The first thing is you got to get to your why. My babies was my why. Beyond me, because I was tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired, because I definitely was. But what made me was my babies. Okay. I don't want my babies to say, this is all I know. I didn't want my babies to say that. I have boys, I have girls. And at that time, my son was just about to graduate and go to college. Like, I couldn't stay here. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stay here. And then I had to hurry up, because then my girls will be what they are now this year. We're about to be going to college, and I couldn't stay here. What type of relationships did I want them to get into? I couldn't stay here. And so I didn't, so I didn't. And I wanted my God to get the return of his investments, me, all that he has put in me. He don't play about me. And I know that, because I could have died multiple times. He could have let me stay in my mess. He could have, but he knew there was purpose in me that he put in me to do. And so he didn't play about me. And he said, I'm right here. And if he's not playing about me, then what am I doing? We need to get this thing together. Because he didn't want me to walk around tormented and all that every single day. That's not even of him. Like, what, that doesn't even make any sense. That's not who he is. He don't do that. So, that's not, that wasn't him. So with all that being said, let's heal. Let's heal. Let's feel the feelings. Let's get to the root of our issues. Let's get to the root. We understand about the root of weeds. Okay, when you don't get to the root, they come back, and they come back with a vengeance. Okay, so understanding that, then you should understand. We should take that same mechanism and same thing with um, with your all these anxieties, these insecurities, all these or whatever you name it, you know what they are. The mindset that you have, whatever you're struggling with, and you walking around here trying to figure out why is it still here, because you're not getting to the root of it. And that was something that I learned from my parents. They don't get to the root of the problem. They didn't get to the root. My mother talked about it, but like getting to the root. And you can't get to the root without God. Well, I mean, you really can't. But those try. Do it if you don't want to believe in God and all that. I'm not here to persuade you. I'm really not. But I'm just saying, get to the root. Because everyone that's listening does not, believe. And I understand that. I'm telling you what I had to do, and I couldn't do without God. Now, if you have your own mechanisms, I'm just saying get to the root. Get to the root of it. Where it comes from. Where it stems from. Heal and forgive. Forgive your parents. Forgive your parents for not being what you thought that it should be. Grieve the loss of that you're not going to get that parent that you think that you needed. And whatever they were, whether your mama left, like me, like I said, my dad left when I was 11. He left my mama, and it wasn't easy, at all. Not at all. But with all that being said, you heal and forgive, and because we need to be forgiven. If you're a parent, you want your kids to forgive you too. I'm always asking my kids to forgive. I'm always asking them to forgive me, and I be asking them to forgive me for things they don't even think I need to be forgiven of. But because there is no manual for this, and but when you in God, it's just easy because He helps you. He gives you what you need. I'm just gonna say, I don't know how people do without Him, but by all means, do you, boo. So I'm going to end here. And just before I end, I want you to know and always know that you are loved, okay? You're not loved by a little, but you love greatly. Not just today, but forever and always. You're not just loved by some people, but you are loved by the one who created you in His love. And He is not the only one. He loves you unconditionally, and so do I.
You are the potter, so I am a big clay, big clay.